Goofy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Midlife Krisis. I am once again flying solo. Uncle Bob is on assignment still, but I assure you he will be back refreshed, renewed, and ready to provide us all with that knowledge and insight that only Uncle Bob can provide. So today I want to talk about big arcade cabinets. On the last episode, I showed you a dinky tiny baby Dinkies arcade cabinet that was made with all kinds of detail. That, of course, was the New Wave Toys Berserk Replicade. This is a fucking Sega Astro City, Jack. This is the real deal. It is probably one of the coolest things that I own. It is sitting next to, of course, this Neo Geo NVS 4-slot machine, which I will talk about at another time. But today we're going to focus on the Sega Astro City. This is also known as a candy cab, if you're not familiar at all with Japanese arcade cabinets. And it got that nickname because of the colorful button pattern. Usually on a stock Sega Astro City, one side was all hot pink and the other side was like a neon green. So very 90s, very cool. On the monitor, which is probably a little blown out because it is an old CRT monitor, but a beautiful, beautiful CRT monitor nonetheless. I have Street Fighter 3 New Generation. So inside here I have the Dark Soft CPS3 system. So what that means is I have every CPS3 game, which there's only 6. There's Street Fighter 3 New Generation, Double Impact, of course the super famous Third Strike that everybody loves, including myself. Then there's 2 JoJo Bizarre Adventure games and a game called Warzord, aka Red Earth, which is like the most obscure of all of them. But that did come out semi-recently on a Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection. So that was the first time it was ever released on a home console. So that's neat. So yeah, this is Street Fighter 3 New Generation. It's I'll say the least loved version of Street Fighter 3. And there's some reasons for that. For me, it's kind of my favorite, and it's not because of technically, Third Strike is the best game in the series because you have the most characters, so the most variety. It's the most balanced. It's the game that people still play to this day, talk about with an incredible amount of reverence, and all of that is well earned. But Street Fighter 3 New Generation was the game that started the whole thing, and if you're as old as I am, you remember how big of a deal it was that Capcom just couldn't seem to count to the number 3. So they finally did it in 1997, and this game is the result. So it's an entirely new roster, with the exception of Ryu and Ken. Ryu and Ken are older, which is neat. But the reason why I love it so much is the aesthetic and the style. So number one, it has the most frames of animation of all the Street Fighter 3 games. So it's like a moving painting. That stuff rules. So yeah, owning it, it's a lot better than owning a painting because I get to play a really cool fighting game instead of just staring at a bunch of money that I spent to put something on the wall. If that's your deal, that's great. But for me, I'd rather own this kind of shit because I'm a lifelong nerd. Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit of Street Fighter 3. Not sure how well this is going to capture. And then I'll do a little tour of the cabinet. So here we go. So, and in New Generation, I like Oro the best. Oro is a super old dude, and the story behind him is, I thought, always really cool. He's so strong that he had to tie one hand behind his back out of fairness, which, if you think about it, is just, he's a cocky, pompous son of a bitch. And he's a charge character, which in Street Fighter I tend to gravitate more towards the charge characters. M. Bison is my guy, always has been, always will be, aka Dictator for those fighting game perverts out there. I never called him that. I called him by his Christian name, M. Bison, which of course isn't actually his name either, but that's a different story for a different day. Okay, so what I like about Oro is, again, charge character, but he's got good range control, and he's got these upward projectile attacks, which are great anti-air. I'm fighting a character, Sean, who in the storyline was inspired or obsessed with Ken and Ryu, and that's very much his style. And I just whipped his butt. Whipped it! Alright, here we go. So if you've never played a Japanese arcade cabinet before, one of the first things you're going to notice is the fact that the joysticks, which are typically Sanwa parts, they're very loose compared to American-style cabinets, which we grew up with. So your Mortal Kombats, your Street Fighter 2s and whatnot. Those have typically Suzo Hap joysticks, which are the bat top, and they've got a lot of tension on them. I love those too. I'm joystick agnostic, for the record. I love Sanwa joysticks and I love Suzo Hap joysticks. I've got time for both of them. These, I don't know, again, don't know if you can see these really well, but the after fight graphics that they do, they're beautiful. This game has some of the best pixel art, if not the best pixel art, in my opinion, of any series of game ever. And I'm talking all of Street Fighter 3. So here we're in Oro's cave where he hangs out, and I am fighting another Oro. And there's all kinds of puppies and kitties that he hangs out with, which is great. It shows that he doesn't take himself super seriously. Alright, so here we go. I'm gonna dive in, do a little combo ski. So, I love Street Fighter. Always have, always will. I'm decent enough at it to have fun with friends, play online, do okay. I can't play it at an Evo level. That's never going to happen. And that's fine. Because I do kind of appreciate these things. I like to play fighting games single player, to be honest. Like, I have a good time with that. It's not all about competition. Plus, I'm like maybe the least competitive person of all time. But we'll see how that goes. we can test that theory someday with somebody. All right. So in that match of Oro on Oro Prime, my Oro took the W. Alrighty. I'm gonna finish up this round and then I'll do a little tour, a little quick tour of the Astro City. You can see what I've done to it. Which is not much, but I can briefly talk about some things and highlight some cool things that I did to it. Alright, and we got him, neighbor. Okay, so I'm going to come back with a little bit of a tour of this thing. It won't take too long, but I'm just going to show some things that I did to it and how I cleaned it up and why it looks so GD good today. So come on back. Okay, so we're back. Here's a brief little tour of the Sega Astro City. Let's start with the most obvious, the control panel. So here we go. Okay, so here, again, these are all Sanwa parts here. I replaced, when I first got this, it had a Sega Blast City 6-button panel on there. But this, dear friends, is of course a Sega Astro City. So that wasn't going to fly. So the first thing I'll point out here is this panel is aftermarket. It was made by a hero in Taiwan. He did such a good job. It looks so good, so authentic. I honestly cannot tell the difference between this one and a real one. Going back to the buttons again, so this side originally on an original panel would be neon green like this, and then neon green buttons, and then this shade of pink would be over here. Same deal, neon pink and the buttons here. So what I've done is I've made my own little color scheme. I bought my parts from a website called Lizard Lick, if I remember right, but that was a long time ago. Well, not that long ago, about 7 years ago. But these are still relatively new. So you have this, got a little custom dust cover on that. And I had to replace these buttons here. Were filthy, just filthy. And the whole thing, the whole cabinet had a just putrid cigarette smoke essence to it, because this came actually off of a shipping container from China, full of like 20 of these bad boys. And I happened to get it at a time when this stuff was still relatively affordable. So I don't exactly remember the full dollar amount of what I spent on it. But today the same thing is probably a couple grand. But, you know, I'm never going to sell this thing unless I absolutely have to. We're talking like destitution have to. But yeah, I love this thing, obviously, as you can tell. The monitor, the picture quality on this thing is gorgeous, but that's not going to capture on this camera because it is an old arcade monitor running at 15 hertz, so that's why you see the rolling and all that stuff, and it's blown out. But I assure you, in person, this thing is drop dead gorgeous. So, yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. Just wanted to show this thing off. You've probably seen it in the background of some of the videos that we've done here. Most recently, the featuring our Lord and Savior Corey Haim. That was, I think, in the background of my shot there. But so yeah, last episode I talked about a little tiny arcade cabinet. Today I wanted to talk about a big ass one. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little tour, and I'll be back with Uncle Bob on the next episode. So thanks so much for watching.